You are welcome to LFN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issue with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name, Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. In the early days of R. Kelly's indictment, we were not even bothered much because we knew well that the prosecution were short of facts, and that it was going to be their word against R. Kelly's. Little did we know that the government's plan was to assume evidence where it does not exist, and draw conclusions out of assumptions made, and to consider hearsay as meaningful talk. While we have always believed that the government and the legal system are two separate entities, in R. Kelly's case, it turns out the two are so married like husband and wife. In what we have repeatedly called a questionable New York conviction, R. Kelly was found guilty of bribery. This particular charge was smuggled onto R. Kelly's charge sheet later, and is therefore assumed to have been part of the prosecution's struggle to build a big case where there was no case. Prosecutors said that in 1994, R. Kelly caused another person to offer a bribe to an official, to create a fake identification document for an underage person by the pseudonym Jane Doe 1. What the jury, together with their New York counterpart Judge Ann Donnelly did forget, however, was that there is a statute of limitations on bribery charges, that suggests they must be enforced within 5 years of the last act required to complete the crime or violation. So while the government and judiciary think that they can successfully try R. Kelly and find him guilty for a bribery crime they claim took place 28 years ago, they are simply writing their judgment in the sand. We know that they have been more than anxious to send R. Kelly away for the longest possible time, seeking the maximum sentences possible for all charges, but it will not be this way. It's difficult to see the very people who are supposed to protect the law by providing equal justice to all Americans at the forefront of abusing our beloved Constitution. Choosing from among us who truly deserves justice and who doesn't. Despite their claims of bribery lacking sufficient evidence, the statute of limitations was another cap they shouldn't have ignored. While we may understand the unfair actions by the team of prosecutors, considering it's their primary role to try and prove people guilty even when the circumstances are different, seeing the judges also as inclined to them, and trying as much as possible to make sure they find the defendant guilty even if they have to ignore what the law suggests is rather strange phenomena. Considering the multiple baseless accusations that the government subjected R. Kelly to in the early days of 2020, it even gets quite confusing to see that many do not appear on the final charge sheet, with many of them likely thrown out eventually for a lack of evidence. So many claims were made by the government, but whenever asked for the facts, they had nothing to say. It was alleged that R. Kelly had kidnapped and abused multiple underage women, but when asked for the police reports and statements, nothing. When asked for emergency call logs, nothing. When asked whether the alleged R. Kelly detainees had made attempts to escape and were stopped along the way, still nothing. It all eventually became a game of cat and mouse in an endless chase that fetched no real results. If anyone had any evidence pertaining this case, it was Robert, and the evidence was the fact that no one reported anything. If no one reported anything over 2 decades, then surely nothing happened. How the prosecution managed to secure a guilty verdict on all counts in the Brooklyn court still perturbs me. And this takes me back to what I recently said. That when the government is out to get you, they will make sure to get you irrespective of what the law says. It's shocking to learn that even forced labor was on the list of counts in Brooklyn court. It's difficult to understand how he could also be charged for forced labor allegations, as though to say that any of these women were a sort of benefit to him. Like they did anything constructive for him apart from spend his money to the last dime. Just how the U.S. court can charge a citizen for asking people to knock on doors or walls to announce their presence, and restrictions on how to use spaces in his own house makes me wonder whether we are living on Earth, or whether we recently relocated to Mars where new rules may apply. Considering Dream Hampton, who had been to his mansion to profile him back in the years, confessed to this alone is perfect evidence that R. Kelly did not intend to keep anyone hostage within the house. If he was operating a cult like the authorities suggest, such a space would never be accessed by a journalist. Meanwhile, there is the testimony made by his former executive assistant that was completely ignored. She was clear when she said among the women she ever saw with R. Kelly and interacted with, none was underage,
They ranged in ages, but none of them were underage.
Indeed, you will realize that whoever wants a piece of this restitution bounty struggles and tries so hard to be underage at the time they met Kelly.
Actually happened at his home, and it happened at his home, and I was 17 years old.
This has seen almost all except one say they were just a few months left to turn 18 when they met him. This cannot be a normal trend, except when people are trying to fit into the desired age bracket. In fact, even the likes of Lisa Van Allen, who were later proved to have been of age, started off with the "I was 17" story, only to get busted later when it was discovered that they were lying. It's highly possible that all these "I was 17" stories may have not been true. According to Rodney Williams, the prosecution used the excuse that R. Kelly did obstruct justice back in 2008 in order to get around the statute of limitation. Now that the obstruction charges were thrown out, why won't the statute hold? The rest of the charges should also be thrown out. And again, since there was no obstruction of justice, the 2008 court ruling should be reinstated. According to Lady T, Lisa Van Allen didn't want Jennifer Bonjean to cross-examine her, because she knew she had been lying the whole time. It's however strange to see the court choose to believe her instead. For a person who had refused to take the stand, and had to be dragged to court to also take part in determining Kelly's destiny, that is despicable. If you wish to take part in a live interview discussing any of these topics, let us know by sending an email to sashalfnmedia@gmail.com for scheduling. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.